our business is called Now Pools, which we are the first and only on-demand pool and spa company. Here in Phoenix, Arizona, it is extremely hot in the summertime. If you don't have a pool, it is just cruel to send your kids outside. So you didn't necessarily want to spend the $75,000 to $150,000 it might cost to put an in-ground pool in and lose our yard. There had to be a temporary solution. So you get a pool when you want it and don't have a pool when you don't want it. We sold out within 2 weeks of really launching things. We wanted to make sure that our clients were not only thinking about spreading the word, but rewarded for spreading the word about our service. If you're already spending money on marketing, consider hiring a PR person. That sometimes we just have to wait till the temperatures are high. The highly seasonal summertime business left a big gap in the year. So we took a couple approaches.
Hello and welcome to the DTC Daily Podcast. Every week we interview some of the best e-commerce founders and dive deep into their key growth drivers, uncovering actionable insights that you can implement in your business. But before we jump into today's conversation, a quick thank you to our friends at Saral. Most brands get influencer marketing wrong. They think paying a creator for a single post will spark a sales spike. That simply doesn't work. Successful brands like Graza, Obvi and Hexclad are forging genuine partnerships. And that's where Saral comes in. It's your go-to platform for partnering with the right influencers, tracking results, and managing everything in one place. Book a demo at getsaral.com/demo, mention us, and get an extended free trial exclusive for our listeners. Hey Ross, welcome to the DTC Daily Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Kishal.
So Ross, why don't you start by telling our audience a little bit about your business and what you guys do?
Yeah, our business is called Now Pools, which we are the first and only on-demand pool and spa company. So our clients get a subscription in the summertime that is to a pool. We go out and we set up an above ground pool for our clients, and then we take care of all the weekly cleaning, maintenance, chemicals, all those headaches of pool ownership. We take care of all that for our clients, and then at the end of the subscription, we remove the pool and you get your yard back. So you get a pool when you want it and don't have a pool when you don't want it.
So how did you come up with this idea? Let's go back all the way to the beginning and how did this idea come about, and when did you realize that, okay, this is a real business opportunity? Because it's a pretty different business. Yeah. It's a pretty cool business model.
Yeah, it's definitely unique. Like many entrepreneurs out there, especially of small businesses, I was client number one. There was a pain point for me and my family. My wife and I had adopted our children when they were 5 years old, and so we kind of jumped in the deep end of parenting, and that was a challenge to say the least. And I knew as a dad I wanted them to be outside, but here in Phoenix, Arizona, it is extremely hot in the summertime, and if you don't have a pool, it is just cruel to send your kids outside. So I knew that I wanted a pool, but I didn't necessarily want to spend the $75,000 to $150,000 it might cost to put an in-ground pool in and lose our yard, because we love to play yard games in the wintertime here when the weather's beautiful in Phoenix. So I was thinking there had to be a temporary solution. I thought about, well, there's above ground pools, which are certainly temporary for the most part. And that was all great, except I knew nothing about pools, above ground pools, in-ground pools, none of it. So I, thought that there had to be more clients potentially like me that were looking for a solution that was temporary and didn't want to take the time to learn about balancing chemicals and all that stuff. So, it was still theoretical at the time when I came up with the idea, but we launched during the COVID pandemic, and that was a nice launch for us because there was a lot of people stuck at home looking for solutions on ways to spend their summer. And so that was sort of the beginning phases of Now Pools, and it certainly turned out well and has been trending upward ever since then.
So once you spotted the gap in the market, what gave you that conviction to actually pull the trigger and then say, okay, I need to scale this? Could you talk a little bit more about those early days? What acquiring the first few customers, how did that come about?
Yeah, the first few customers were I guess when we launched the business, we had no idea if one person would sign up or a million, and thankfully we're somewhere in between on that. But we went on basically word of mouth. Initially, we started talking to friends and family around town, and told them that this is something we were trying. And thankfully, from the arrival of the pools to my house, we sold out within 2 weeks of really launching things. So again, fortunate timing during the pandemic, but the word of mouth spread quickly because, again, a lot of people were looking for an option, and like many new products or services, early adopters like to share that they've come across something really unique that they think is a really cool idea, a good experience, or a good product. Those early adopters are really key in our business and in many other businesses to really spread the word about your product. And you got to kind of harness the power of those early adopters to make sure that they are equipped to spread the word properly with about your product or service.
And as a business, what are you actively doing, to get these people to talk about it? Because you have mentioned earlier as well that your single largest growth driver has been word of mouth. So how do you capitalize on that, and how do you make sure that people are constantly talking about it?
Yeah, our biggest thing early on is that we wanted to systematize word of mouth, which kind of sounds a little bit like an oxymoron, but we wanted to make sure that our clients were not only thinking about spreading the word but rewarded for spreading the word about our service. And so when clients sign up to our subscription, still to this day, but early on, they are sent an email and a text message with their own custom referral code. And so what that looks like is incorporates their name and a summer term that they then are able to give to other people that they come across, and it will give that person signing up money off, and as well as the person who's sharing that referral code an amount of money off their subscription as well. And so for us, that was something that we always tried to systematize and automate so that people knew that indeed we were looking for referrals. I think from a small business perspective, it seems obvious. Of course, every business is looking for those warm referrals and people to spread the word. But from a client perspective, they're not necessarily thinking about you or your business as much as you are. So you have to kind of be in front of their face and tell them, like, yes, we would love for you to refer our business, and we're going to reward you handsomely, hopefully, for doing so. And you can even get free products from us or a free subscription month from us if you spread the word enough and enough people sign up. And so putting a real system behind that, again, because we were a new type of service. People have heard of above ground pools, but they didn't know that we were an option. And so, being able to have that warm, confident verification of our product and our service was really key to our growth, because it took those early adopters to tell their friends and family around town that, hey, we've got this pretty cool subscription. You guys should check it out as well. So it kind of validated what we were doing as a business.
Could you walk me through the journey a little bit in more detail? Because if someone's watching this and they're also trying to design a similar referral system, could you just walk us through a little bit more in terms of when do you send out those emails? Are there any reminders that are being sent out again to get people to refer someone else? If you could just tell us what the journey looks like at your end.
Yeah, so after they, my background is in kind of system automation, so I certainly leveraged a lot of that within our company. But essentially, one day after they signed the agreement, they're sent this custom referral code, but they're also sent a couple social media graphics that they can share on social media that uses that code. So trying to make the process even easier for those clients. And then we text them a week later to remind them about the process as well. Again, those are typically the most positive times of our process. Not to say the whole whole experience or subscription isn't positive, but especially during those early days where it's like Christmas in July for a lot of clients when it's 115 degrees out, and we do a lot of surprises for kids, like the parents sign up for the subscription and then the kids don't know until we're installing the pool, and it becomes this really magical event. So that leads to a lot of great opportunities to ask for referrals or ask for reviews on Google or Facebook. So that those opportunities to kind of strike while the iron's hot and the vibes are really high is what we try to capitalize early on during the process to make sure like we're getting those positive reviews and referrals.
And I think you've mentioned earlier as well that you have a lot of repeat customers that keep coming back. So could you tell me a little bit more about the post-purchase journey as well, that, okay, now summer's done, you've taken the pool back. How are you getting that person to again come back next summer?
Yeah, after their pool is picked up, we try to incentivize them with some, a discount code during those early week to 2 weeks after the pool is removed, in order to kind of, again, capitalize on them thinking about pools, because after we lose them, quote unquote, after say a month or so after the pool's been gone, they're not going to think about a pool until the weather gets hot again. And so we've kind of recognized that we kind of have to strike early on after the pool has been removed, so that they actually remember how much they enjoyed it, what a good time it was for them and their family. But if we kind of miss out on that opportunity, we really have to wait until the weather starts to typically get hotter. That is one of our biggest drivers, is the pain of summer here in Phoenix, Arizona. The triple-digit Fahrenheit temperatures really drive people to sign up for our service, which is great because the hot temperatures aren't going anywhere. But sometimes it limits our ability to market well early in the season because the temperatures aren't super hot or extreme, and so sometimes we just have to wait till the temperatures are high. If we can't get the client early on to come back, we have to kind of wait until they're feeling that pain again of the summer season.
And these emails that you're sending them as reminders, are they built into some kind of automation, or these are email blasts that you're doing?
Both. I mean, so obviously we look for opportunities to send out email marketing blasts that are unique to whatever's going on at that time of the year, and sometimes we send out more if we need to really boost our sales. And of course, like every small business entrepreneur, you're always trying to adjust the levers of your business to drive sales properly. Obviously if we're sold out for weeks on end, we're probably not sending an email blast out. But most of our clients, they're getting touches from us, not necessarily in an annoying way, hopefully, trying to enhance the experience. So for example, throughout the subscription of your pool, we send out a game of the week. So, again, we're trying to really maximize the pleasure of the subscription process. And, parents are always looking for ideas for their kids to participate in, especially in the pool, and really take advantage of that to create those memories. And so we send out a game of the week for our subscribers to participate in and really enhance the experience. But otherwise, we're sending out email blasts occasionally just to have the clients think about us and, consider signing up as, if they're a potential client. But that happens kind of throughout the spring more heavily. And then as the temperatures are starting to hit a higher number, we're always trying to kind of be right in front of them to remind them that we are a solution to their problem.
And apart from word of mouth, what other channels are you now leveraging? As obviously now that the business is growing, what are the other channels that you're leveraging to, get customers?
Yeah, one of the things we've really leaned into the last 2 years is really the kind of the momfluencer environment on Instagram specifically, but TikTok as well, and Facebook, the social media aspect, because again, going back to what we talked about earlier, our product is very visual. And, some people, we might have a sign somewhere or an ad somewhere that says, get a pool in your own backyard within 48 hours. and that's intriguing to people, but they don't really know what we're talking about. They're like, a pool. I mean, it takes months to build, and like, what are you talking about? And so, with these influencers or micro influencers that we've really leaned into, they're able to show not only their kids playing in the pool, but they're able to show off the benefits of the service and really validate on our behalf. And that is, they've got typically an audience, heavily populated with our ideal demographic, which is really moms with kids. And so, that's our ideal demographic, and they are speaking directly to them. They're validating our idea, but more importantly, they are showing off the product and the aspects of it. Because again, if you just said, we're representing a on-demand pool and spa company, no one would know what we're talking about. And so being able to kind of show that, again, it's not a little inflatable play pool that maybe some people think of as an above ground pool. These pools rival most in-ground pools and are pretty legitimate and can accommodate a lot of people if you want to have a pool party and things like that. And so it's a all-encompassing validation for our company when we really introduce those micro-influencers into the marketing process.
And now, as you start expanding geography, because you did mention that your business currently is in Arizona, but as you start expanding geographies, how do you continue the strategy of word of mouth? Because I'm assuming the word of mouth currently is contained within these communities. So how do you take it forward to other states and other cities?
Yeah, we get a heavy amount of interest actually from around the country, believe it or not. I mean, we've had interest from almost all 50 states. So, even surprisingly, the northern climate, which is a little more moderate, we actually have a higher demand or spike in interest because the summer is so short and the demand is so high, but the supply of pools is so low. And so we actually have a lot of interest from several other states, but that doesn't necessarily create a market. Just because a handful of people from Nebraska or wherever it might be notify us that they're interested in our services, doesn't make a business there. So, again, we would, as we look to scale this across the country, obviously climate will be important in the conversation, but, influence and people on the ground that are going to be champions of our cause is going to be an important part of things, and making sure that we leverage organizations that, whether that's churches or YMCAs or other things that kind of have families that are within their community and that kind of reach to those folks. I mean, that's going to be part of that process, is to really leverage those kind of relationships, getting in with those folks, offering potentially some free pools to some influencers in the area to be able to make sure that we get the word out early and quickly and really help people understand that this is now an option to their summertime problems.
And could you actually give some advice to some of the, founders that are listening to this podcast that just heavily rely on Meta ads or Google ads or SEO to drive traffic or to drive sales for their business? Any advice that you would like to give to them, about word of mouth? Because a lot of people probably would just think word of mouth is luck, or it's something, that just happens, but it's not something you do by design. So if you'd like to, give some advice on that, it would be great.
Yeah, and I mean, candidly, I wish I were better at Meta ads and Google ads, all the platforms where you can spend money. I mean, we have certainly done our fair share of spending money and trying to drive awareness on those platforms. So there's nothing necessarily wrong with those, and especially if you've got a great system behind it, I think that's great. But I think to get more broad awareness, you probably need to get a little more creative, and whether that's one of the things that we did early on is we hired a freelance PR person, and so that really helped us get on traditional media. We've been on our local news on a handful of channels, probably 7 to 10 times between newspaper articles and local news spots. I would highly recommend kind of getting more creative in that respect, in the sense that a PR person, they are great at what they do. A lot of them are, and they will be able to kind of place your product or ad in the right spot at the right time. And so I would highly suggest, if you're already spending money on marketing, consider hiring a PR person that's good and vetted, but they will hopefully do right by your product to get it in front of larger audience. In general, I would just say, like, think about getting creative, because I think that the online ads, again, they're steady and can be reliable depending on the system you have behind it. But think about attracting some attention and eyeballs in a creative way, whether that's the person you're partnering up with or a creative use of your product. It really, obviously you can't give advice for every product out there, but I think, thinking a little more strategic. I walk around every day, whether my family likes it or not, but I think about, how do we get more pools in people's backyards? Like, I think about, like, everybody needs a pool, and I think you can kind of translate that thinking if you're a small business entrepreneur, that you can think about your product needs to be in everyone's hands, or most people's hands. Like, so how do we get it in their hands? How do we get to the right people? How do we get more exposure for our brand or our business? And just creative ideas will flow once you start thinking that way.
Awesome. And my last question is going to be, so how do you manage the seasonality in the business? And there are a lot of founders who are probably watching this as well, who also have highly seasonal businesses. So how do you manage that seasonality, where obviously it's just a few months in the year where you actually need to maximize sales? So what do you do for the rest of the year, to make sure that things are rolling smoothly?
Yeah, this was a significant challenge for us early on, in the sense that the highly seasonal summertime business left a big gap in the year for the winter time, and obviously that does a number on your revenue sources. So we took a couple approaches. One, we introduced spas, so it's an adjacent market that serves a need in the fall, winter, springtime here in Arizona. We're able to provide spas, and that has been steadily growing year over year as well. But the pleasure of the wintertime doesn't necessarily equate to the pain of summertime here. And so our spa business is still lower than our summertime business, but it has helped flatten that revenue curve a little bit. The other thing is that we tried to figure out how we could be in everyone's backyard year round. And so we introduced what we call our annual Oasis package or pass. And so what that looks like, it's a 12-month commitment from our clients, and they get 5 months of a pool and 7 months of a spa. And so we're in their backyard year round, and we are able to charge a much lower price to our clients because we're able to spread out all those costs over the course of 12 months versus 2 or 3 months in the middle of the summer. So I would say, think creatively about how your product can either have some subscription model, or if you're already in a subscription-based model, how can you kind of spread out that revenue curve to not only help your business, but potentially help your clients pay a lower monthly cost as well. Look at it creatively to make sure that it makes sense for your business, but also, how can it be also a win for your clients of your business?
Awesome, Ross. Thank you so much for doing this. This has been a very, very insightful episode. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Kushal.
No.